Alright guys, welcome back to the third part of the Django Quiz App with JavaScript. So this is where we finished off the last time. We have our quiz list ready, and currently we have two quizzes available, Simple Math and Test. Once we decide to press on a particular quiz, we should see a modal with the details regarding this particular quiz. So over here we have difficulty easy, number of questions 3, score to pass 60%, and time 1 minute. And we can either take it or not. Okay, so in this case I'm going to press yes, and right now we only see the quiz name. And the task for today will be to work on this page so we can actually see the questions and the answers. All right, so yeah, without further ado, let's get started. All right, guys, so currently I have two views registered. I have the quiz list view, and this is basically our main page, okay? So we are referring to the main HTML, and it's registered as our main path. And then we have this quiz view, which is basically a detail view. We could set it as a class-based view that will inherit from detail view, but let's leave it as it is. And the most important thing right now is to know that based on the primary key, we know what title to display. So here we have Simple Math, and if we go to Test, here we have Test, okay? And if we take a look at this quiz HTML, here we have obj name, and in the title we have obj name as well. And we need to do a similar situation for the data. So right now this quiz view, this quiz HTML needs to be fed with proper questions and answers. So in order to do this, we need to create a separate view that will return a JSON response. And with the use of JavaScript file that we will link to this quiz HTML, we will be able to display those questions and answers, all right? So let's create another view. Let's call it quiz data view. And this will take in also a request and a primary key. And then I just need to copy this line of code because this is the very basic thing to do. We need to know with which quiz we are dealing with, all right? And then as the next step, we can create an empty questions list. So we need to get the questions first before we actually start thinking about the answers. So right now I can create a loop for q in quiz, and then I'm going to refer to get questions method. So this is what we wrote in the models.py file. Here we have this get questions method, all right? We will return to this method, I think, in this video. We will do some adjustments because right now we have limited it only to the number of questions, but this is something that we will take care of later. So right now we are looping. We are grabbing a question in those quiz get questions, and as the next step, we will create an empty answers list. Okay, so for each question, this answer list will get resetted over here. And right now, knowing that we have a question, a single question over here, we can create another for loop. And this time we will put in A as answer, in Q, and then get. Okay, we don't have a recommendation, so let's go to models.py file of questions, I think. Yeah, and here we have get answers. So we now need to refer to get answers method in our models.py file in our questions application. So I'm just going to copy this get answers, and I'm going to bring it into the views. Views of quizzes over here, all right? This is why we constructed it this way. So first we have a quiz, then we need to know what questions are related to the quiz, and then we need to also know what answers are related to each question, okay? And then as the next step, we can write down answers append and we are going to append a, and let me take a look again. What do we have in the models py file? So both question and answer have a field text. All right, so if we go back to the views, we need to write down answers, append answer, and we need to refer to the text field. Okay, and finally we are going to write down questions and also append, and here we are going to return we are going to put in the questions list a dictionary. So we are going to put in strq, so we are putting a question as the key, and then we are going to assign the list of answers. So we will have a key question, and to this key we are assigning a list of answers from over here. Okay, and then we are going to the next question. The answers list is resetted, so we are grabbing all the answers, and when we have all the answers, we are simply referring to the questions list, and we are putting a new item as a key and a value in a dictionary. Okay, so we are assigning to each questions the answers. All right, and then we need to return the JSON response. So we need to go to from Django HTTP. We need to import JSON response, and over here let's return JSON response. And what do we want to return? Well, let's return the data, and to this data key we are going to assign questions, and this questions list also consists of answers. All right, and also let's return for the future the time of the quiz. So we have the quiz object over here. It's very easy for us to access the time field. We just need to put in quiz.time. All right, so basically this is it. We have our quiz data view ready. As the next step, we need to register it. So let's go to URLs py file and let's bring it in. So we need to import quiz data view, and then I'm just going to copy this path, and we will have pk, this is very important, and then data, and this won't be quiz view but quiz data view, and let's also put in as the name quiz data view. All right, and this is basically it. So as the next step, we need to create our quiz.js file in the static folder. So let's go to static quizzes, and here let's put in quiz.js. And yeah, let's take a look at main HTML. Here we have block scripts. So I'm just going to copy this block scripts, and I'm going to put it in the quiz HTML. So we should put it over here. And this time we want to link not the main.js, but the quiz.js. All right, so let's save this. In the quiz.js, let's just confirm if everything is working with a console log. I'm just going to put in hello world quiz, something like this. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to hit refresh, and we have invalid block tag. Okay, so we need to take a look at our quiz HTML. So we don't have the static tag. So I'm going to copy it from main HTML and put it into quiz HTML. I'm going to save this. Let's refresh, and everything is working. I'm going to right click inspect, jump to the console, and there it is. We have hello world quiz. Okay, so right now we can actually focus a little bit more on this quiz.js file, because as mentioned before, we need to get the data. Okay, so let's actually see if we can get the data in an easy way and display it first in the console, and then we will simply try to include it in our page over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to proceed with the jQuery Ajax method, and we need to refer that the type should be get. We want to get the data, and as the next step we need to define from where we want to get the data, and we will do it with the URL. So I put here backticks because right now I'm going to create a const URL, and this is going to be equal to window location ref, and then I'm going to console log the URL, and I'm just going to comment this and refresh the page. So right now this matches this, okay? And if we take a look at our URL.py file, this part over here is basically the same. So what we need to do is just to add data in order to access this view, in order to get the data, this JSON response with the data from over here, all right? So let's go back to quiz. Let's put in URL and then data. Then let's put in success. And here we will have a function with a response, console log response. So if everything goes well, we should see the data over here. And also let's put in another block, error, and here we will also have a function with an error, and let's console log the error. All right, so let's save this and let's see, will we actually be able to see the data from our quiz data view? All right, so let me hit refresh, and there it is. And the data, the array is 0, and maybe because we didn't add any data to this test quiz, so let me return to the simple math, and I'm going to press yes, and here we have 3 actually elements. So let's take a look at those this data. So here is basically the elements 1, 2, and 3. So the question 1, 2, and 3, okay? And then if we take a look at the key, this is, the question is the key, okay, this is it. And then we have the answers as a list, okay? So we have 1 plus 1 is, and then to this key, to this question, we have assigned the answers 2, 3, 4. And then let's go to the next one. We have the next question as the key, and then we have another list, another array with 1, 4, 4, 6, okay? And in the next one, we have 3 plus 3 is, and 1, 5, 9 are the answers. All right, so hopefully this is understandable. And as the next step, we need to think about a way how to display those questions and answers in our template, in our quiz HTML, right? So as the next step, I'm going to head to quiz HTML, and maybe I'm just going to create a horizontal line, and then I'm going to create a form with an ID, and this is just going to be quiz form, and I'm going to also add some class, and I'm going to use bootstrap, so I'm just going to add the margin top 3 and margin bottom 3, and then I'm going to close off the form. Here I'm going to place in the CSRF middleware token, and below I'm going to place a div where we are going to keep our questions and answers. So I'm going to give it an ID, quiz box, and I'm just going to close it off. It will be an empty div because we will fill it out in the JavaScript part, all right? So this div is empty, and we also will need some kind of a button to submit this form with all those questions and answers. So here I'm just going to place button type submit, and I'm going to make it a blue button, so we need to place in bootstrap classes btn primary. I'm also going to add a margin top 3 over here, and I'm just going to place save and close off the button. All right, so now let's save this. Let's refresh. We should see this button and the horizontal line, and indeed we see it. So right now, between the save button and this horizontal line, we should focus on displaying the questions. So what we need to do is to go back to our quiz.js, and as the next step, let me just delete this console log URL. We don't need it anymore. I'm going to create another const, and this is going to be the quiz box. And here we need to grab this element. So document get element by ID, and let's place in quiz box. Okay, so we are now grabbing quiz box that we defined over here. We are getting this element. All right, perfect. As the next step, let's go to the success block, because over here we are going to create another variable called data, or maybe we can actually create the variable over here, let data, like this, and I'm going to explain why I'm doing it this way a little bit later. And then over here I'm just going to write down data is equal to response data. All right, so we defined the variable over here, and then we are assigning to the data response.data. So having the data, we can actually perform a for each method. So we can write down data for each, and over here we are just going to loop through the elements. We are going to grab a single element, and if we take a look at what do we actually have over here, so let's just go through this one more time. We have each position that is returned in a JSON response, and this is what I called an element. All right, so each element has a key and a value. The key is a question and the value are the answers. All right, so let's just take a look at it one more time. We have a key, and then we have an array with the answers. So if we open it up, there it is, a key and the value as the list of answers. All right, so knowing this, we can perform a for each where we are grabbing a single element, and then we can create a for loop inside, and we need to use as the key question and as the value the answers. Okay, answers like this, and then of object entries, and we need to pass in the element. All right, so now we are having a question as a key and answers as a value. Okay, and here I just made a mistake. Why is it defined properties? It should be entries of object entries. Okay, so for you to know what this exactly will give us, I'm just going to console log the question, and then console log the answers. All right, let's see what we will have over here, and I'm just going to comment this out. All right, so hopefully this picture over here gives you an idea what we did. We have a key, which is the question. All right, and then we have the values. Okay, then we have the answers, and this is the first question, and those are the first answers related to this question. And then we have the second question, and here are the answers related to this question. And then the third one, and the logic is the same. All right. So knowing this, we can now refer to our quiz box. Okay. So inside this for loop, we can now refer to quiz box inner HTML, and we are going to take care of the question first, and then we are going to simply display the answers as next. So let's maybe add a horizontal line, and then we will open a div with a class margin bottom 2. I'm going to close it off over here, and then I'm just going to display the question. So maybe in the bolded font, $, curly bracelets, and let's inject the question from over here. All right, so this is basically for the question, to display the question. We can actually take a look at this right now, how our page looks right now. Let's refresh, and as you can see, we have the question. So right now I'm going to get rid of this horizontal line, and let's refresh one more time, and there are our questions. All right, so as the next step, we need to focus on displaying the answers to those particular questions. And in order to do this, we need to return to our quiz.js, and we are still in this for loop. So below this quiz box inner HTML, let's put in answers and then for each. And we are grabbing a single answer, all right? And then what we need to do is to, again, refer to quiz box inner HTML, and we need to add. And then again, I'm going to use backticks. And then let's open up a div. Let's close it off over here. And inside, we need to put in an input. The type is going to be radio, all right? I'm also going to give it a class ans, and this is something, ans as answer, and this is something that we are going to talk about a little bit later, I think in the next part. And then let's also give it an ID. And here I'm going to place in the question, all right, and answer. Then the name is going to be the question, and the value is going to be the answer. All right, so this is it. We have input type radio, class ans, ID, name, and the value. Perfect. So let's also put in a label. So label for, and then let's put in this $, curly bracelets, and question. So it should match the name that we have over here. And we are going simply just to display the answer. Like this. All right. Label. All right. So hopefully this will work. Label. Okay. Yeah, let's find out if this will work or I made any mistakes or not. And there it is. Okay, so we have radio buttons, and then we have next to them labels. So if we would decide to get rid of this label, if we refresh, we would see only the radio buttons without the option. Okay, so let's put this back in, and yeah, let's save this. And there it is. All right. And the final thing that I'm going to do is to get rid of this data. We will see if we will need it as a let or not later on. I'm just going to put it as a const, and right now we will have the data defined over here. All right. If we will have any problems later on, we will return to this concept. But for now, everything seems to be working. So let's leave it like this. And the final thing that I would like to do in this tutorial is to simply go back to the models py file over here, and let's take a look at this get questions. So here we have self get questions set all, and we have the limit to number of questions. And right now it would be nice to get a random question. So it would be nice to have, for example, 20 questions and get the random 5 or 3 questions. All right. So in order to do this, I'm going to go to the top and bring in random. And then as the next step, I'm going to simply go over here, and I'm going to define the questions. So the questions are going to be equal, and then I'm just going to put this self questions set all. All right. And I'm just going to put it as a list. Okay. And as the next step, I'm going to shuffle this list. So random shuffle, and we need to pass in questions. Okay. And finally, I'm going to return the questions over here. Questions with the same limit. Okay. So with the same limit depending on the number of questions defined over here. All right, so let's save this and let's see if this is working. Let's see if we will have an order of those questions changed over here. Going to refresh, and the order has changed. And it didn't change right now, or it did? Let's click again. Okay, and it did change right now. So we could actually go to the questions and add another question. So the text will be 5 plus 5 is, and then simple math calculations. Let's add 10, let's put in 5, and let's put in 500, and this is going to be the correct one, and I'm going to press save. And then let's return to this quiz app. Let's hit refresh, and one more time, and one more time, and we don't see this question, so it should be there. So let's take a look at it, and there it is. Okay, there it is. So we were unlucky, and because we didn't see it after a few refreshes, but it is definitely here. All right, so I think we can finish off with this tutorial. Let me just add some spaces over here to this question. Okay, and yeah, everything is working. So we will finish off over here, and we will continue in the next video tutorial, in the next part number 4. Have a great day. See you soon, and bye-bye.